My name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 2, Episode 6.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Kill Podcasters Network, featuring Dumbheads, Piss Magazine, American Death Camp, Experience Paul Wincock, The Couch Philosopher, and Mind War, in association with Nope Productions. Now, back to the show.
So we're going to pick up right where we left off in the book titled First Earth Battalion by author Lieutenant Colonel Jim Chenon. We are taking the evolutionary tactics that we find in the book First Earth Battalion, an operator's manual. We are taking the tactics from this book and other books like Mind War and all the future books that we're going to be working through. We're going to take these tactics that may be used to describe things on a global scale. And we're going to take those tactics, we're going to apply them to our personal lives. We're going to overcome some of our problems. We're going to overcome some of those troubles in our lives. We're going to work towards the Aristos, of finding the best possible scenario for our current solution. We are going to be those warrior monks and citizen samurais. We're going to grow as individuals. We're going to heal as individuals. And as we do, we will start to see that a network of healers will emerge. That First Earth Battalion. But before any of that can happen, we have to get through this manual. So let's get back to the page titled Thinking Skills. The human brain has seemingly unlimited potential, but the biocomputer itself doesn't guarantee that the human who carries it around will be effective. The programs for that computer must be quality as well. Quality thinking is in demand. I'm not really sure what that word is, but it suggests the 7 shifts on the left. Allow your brain the chance to generate more options for you. Okay, so on this page titled Thinking Skills, we have a picture of a brain. It's not nearly as strange as the picture of the brain on the last page that was like a man and woman. This is just a normal brain, but it has a lot of thought bubbles coming out of it. And it looks like they're all different descriptors of how our brain thinks. So let's take a look. We have analysis. We analyze things in our lives. We analyze the different sources of information, whether it is through traditional means of language, like we talked about in the last episode of reading, writing, and arithmetic, but we also analyze those things that come in through our senses, right? Touch, sight, smell, taste, right? Then we have a design. We design things. We design our future. We use our imagination to design things. We can do all of that based on the information that we gather. There's an information bubble. Information is crucial. Nowadays, we hear things like misinformation and disinformation. Oh, I hate those words, because they are often being said by liars who are lying to you. They are literally spreading mis and disinformation every day. That's their job. But it's our job to sort through their mis and disinformation and find the true information. That's how we make our decisions. That's how we move forward. We have another thought bubble here called concepts. We're going to think about the different concepts that are available to us. These are kind of like, what options do we have? What predetermined thought processes are already out there? Those are concepts. We could do this, we could do that. We're also going to create our own new concepts. We're going to think outside that box. Next, we have problem solving. We all got problems. Some of us have 99 of them. But problem solving isn't one, because we're going to learn the tactics to solve the problems in our own lives and help eventually broaden that battlefield in the mind war, and we can help others start solving their problems as well. We're also going to be opportunity seeking. That's very, very interesting and important concept. A very interesting and important idea, this opportunity seeking. What you see in front of you on your screen, when you see Victor here sitting behind the podium, behind the microphone, the art behind him, the art in front of him, making this podcast, putting my art on social media. Again, when I started this art project 2 years ago, I had no idea I would be doing these type of things. But I was seeking opportunities. And when those opportunities arose, I didn't turn them away. I asked for opportunities. I asked during my spiritual practice, right? Through the use of low-dose psilocybin in combination with the gateway experience, and then going into my spiritual practices, I would ask the universe for opportunities. And when those opportunities were presented to me, I didn't run from them. I honored them. I upheld my end of the bargain. Right? I'm fulfilling my side of the deal. We have another thought bubble here. It says IQ, intelligence, right? We have to have intelligence. We have to gather that information, study, research, grow, allow ourselves to be taught new things, even when we're crusty old turds like me. You still got to learn. Learning is just like our evolution. Our individual evolution starts at birth and ends at death. And it may not even end there. There may be spiritual evolution in the next world. I'm not quite sure yet. I'll let you know when I find out. But we always have to be focusing on increasing our intelligence, increasing our IQ. Weeding out the misinformation, throwing the disinformation in the garbage. We don't need it. Finding the true information, finding the facts, moving forward, learning, growing our intelligence. And that all is accomplished by thinking. Oh, man. It's so much easier not to think, Victor. Why are you asking us to think? How dare you? But Victor, it's so much easier to just stare at the screen all day. The TikTok and the Instagram and the YouTubes, the shorts. Oh my gosh, they just grab my attention and they just won't let it go. My brain turns off. I don't have to think anymore. I know, man. I'm right there with you. I've literally caught myself staring at TikTok for an hour and literally not even watching a single video. Like just flipping through as fast as I can. And at the end of the hour, you just say, what just happened? I didn't absorb anything. I didn't get anything out of it. I never watched a complete video from start to finish. Why? Why was I hypnotized by this? Why did I allow myself to turn my thinking off and just get sucked into it? Again, this is the mind war. These are the tools that are being used against you in order to shut off our next thought bubble, creativity. There are those out there who don't want us to be creative. Again, we talked about in the last episode, those world leaders that want us to just be drones. We know who they are. They came from the past and they're still haunting our present. And holy cow, we have to stop them from going into our future. Those people who created the current education system, going from one class to another, only being in class for 45 minutes to an hour, then the bell rings, and moving to the next subject. Right? These factory style learning institutions, they suck us of our creativity. They demand conformity. They're old, outdated, and they do not need to move into the future. There are new tools, new paradigms to be built for expanding our creativity while at the same time gathering intelligence. Wow, you're telling me that you can be creative and learn at the same time? Absolutely. Perfect example. When I was younger, I had one class called algebra. I had another class called science. This one didn't make algebra didn't make any sense to me because it was just a bunch of random symbols mashed together to make some type of alien language. And over here, we had science, which was this very kind of poetic way to describe what life is. But not until I got into a physical science class, where now arithmetic and science merged together, did I truly start to understand how things are actually created, that creativity. Right? Once you start to understand that this formula that you learned over here in algebra class that made no sense and it was named after some scientist who just plays no role in your life whatsoever. Once you understand that those weird symbols and signs, when you mush them all together and you do some weird calculation that just creates another number that makes no sense to you, once you put together that, oh, that was actually a way to describe how we calculate the amount of water that flows through a certain size pipe at a certain amount of pressure. Oh, that's what we were learning. That's why we were doing all of this. Wouldn't it be nice if we had an education system that taught us those things together from the beginning? Instead of separating all this stuff out, compartmentalizing our brains from one class to the next. How about you mush them all together into one, which is the reality that we live in, and put it all together? That would be part of our next thing, lateral thinking. Thinking in multiple different ways at the same time. It can be done. Holy moly. Then we have the adversary. Adversarial thinking. Having problems come our way. Sometimes when a problem comes into your life, the purpose of it is to strengthen you because you have to do the work to solve it. You can think of it like exercising your mind. And that becomes constructive, our next thought bubble. When we are dealing with our adversary, we begin to construct these solutions around us in order to overcome that adversary. The last two thought bubbles we have here are form and content. If you think of the apps that we use to communicate with each other, you're probably watching me on an app right now, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, wherever you're finding this information. That's the form. That's the structure. That's the tool that allows us to extend our content out to you. Okay? You have to have some type of structure. You have to have some type of form out there available to you before you can just create the content. If I turned off the camera and closed the laptop, I could still do this show. I could still produce and host and star in the Mind War podcast down here in the Mind War studios. All to myself. I could put a mirror in front of it like I'm the audience. That would be content without form. The same way that a social media app that no one was posting to would be form without content. Next page. Right action. If you thought you were getting a report card for what you're doing now and someday, someone somewhere would review that behavior with you. Well, would you continue doing what you're doing and how you're doing it? We have the capacity and therefore the duty to contribute to our own development and the development of others simultaneously. What is your right action plan? Okay, again, this is very important. We've talked about this multiple times, taking that clear look at your life, understanding what you're actually doing in your life, taking that inventory of the things that you do day to day. That's what the author's talking about here, of this kind of idea of that someday in the future, someone's going to look back at everything that you've done and give you a report card. You know, what did you do? What are we going to grade you at for your behavior and the things that you did in your life? If someone was going to do that, would you continue doing things the way that you're doing them right now? And that's, again, part of that. Again, please understand, I am not a member of any of these groups, never have been, never will be. From my understanding, one of the teachings of the Rosicrucians, right? I think they're kind of an offshoot of Freemasonry or vice versa, whatever. One of the things that they do is they talk about this daily review. At the end of the day, you look back at your life. What did you do? Right? What did you accomplish? How did you accomplish it? How did you interact with others? How did they respond to those interactions? Think of this yourself. Write yourself a daily report card at the end of the day. Did I live up to being the very best me? Was I wonderful? Was I working towards paradise? Did I develop myself throughout the day? And did the things that I did contribute to the development of others? So, here, again, this page is titled Right Action. And we have a lot of thought bubbles that kind of lead into the others. Number one, how am I growing? That leads into how do I treat others? Do I help their growth? Do I have a plan? A plan for the mind, body, and spirit. That's right, folks. I've been talking about healing the mind, body, and spirit since day one. That's what I quickly learned when I started my art 2 years ago, when I started this art project. I quickly realized that I was on a path to healing my mind, body, and spirit. And now here we are. 2 years later, we're seeing it written in black and white. What is your plan for healing the mind, body, and spirit? Are there some models to follow? And there's some arrows that go off of that bubble that say Christ, a master, a code. Okay? So he's saying, is there someone that we can take our cue from? Is there someone that we can follow their path? Is it a religious person like a Jesus Christ, Mohammed, whoever it may be, whoever your spiritual leader may be? Is it Buddha, right? All of these are figures that you can look to as leaders as you go through your spiritual growth, as you go through your healing process. It says a master. Is there a master? Again, I think that term comes from some of these fraternities, some of these secret societies. Is there someone in the organization that has mastered these issues, mastered these tactics that you can look to? Is there a code, right? Maybe it's in more of an informal thing. There is no real structure or organization for you to go to. Maybe there isn't a specific religious book that you can reach out to and find a character to follow, but more, is there a code you can follow? Maybe something like the 10 Commandments. That would be a code. Code 1 through 10. Do these things, don't do these things, right? Those are examples of models that you can follow. And then, once you've thought of all those things, how are you growing? Do you have a plan? How do you treat others? Who are you modeling yourself from? Then the question comes, how can I serve them? Them are all the people on the trail behind you that we talked about in the last episode. Those people who are following behind you in their journey, in their solo journey, which soon as we begin to heal and as we begin to grow, it stops being a solo journey, and now we're reaching out to others. So how can we help them? In a service profession, with love and compassion, with time and effort, by growing more effective myself. A service profession, there's a lot of them out there. Those people that serve others in their daily job need to be commended and thanked and appreciated. If you go throughout your day and you find yourself find someone else serving you throughout your day, you better fucking thank them. You better fucking appreciate them. If you're talking down to them, treating these people who are trying to help you and serve you, if you're treating them like shit, you're in big trouble. You're not going to be welcomed into the future. You're not going to be welcomed into the new world order. There will be no place for you. You'll be left on the outskirts to fend for yourself, because we're not going to deal with that type of stuff anymore. These people who think that they are owed something, who think that they deserve this, that, or the other. You're no different than anyone else. Your day is coming if you're going to treat people who serve you negatively. You're in big trouble, I'm telling you. But we're not going to do that because we're going to serve people with love and compassion. I work as a security guard at a community center. Inner city, we have all types of races, ages, religions, all the sexual orientations. You know, this is a community center that is very diverse. And I see a lot of people that come in who are hurting, who are less fortunate, who are suffering. And I know that in my position, I'm very limited in what I can do. There's love and compassion there, but on almost a daily basis, I have to swallow my empathy and understand that there's only so much I can do. And that is difficult. That is a barrier that I hope that we as humanity can break down someday. That together, as a group, there will never be a situation where we say, you know, that's really sad what's happening over there, but there's nothing I can do. We need to be able to move past that. We need to get to a place that where when we see someone hurting, someone suffering, that together we can have that empathy and we can help them. And that's going to take time and effort. And that means growing your most effective self. Next page, stripping away structure. Stripping away structure. The warrior is always on the path. The path is out. Out of the cultural trance and into enlightenment. Period. We are getting out of the hypnotic trance that culture puts us in by telling us that this is the trend we need to follow. This is the alcohol that we need to drink. These are the sports and celebrities that we need to pay attention to. This is the next, government sanctioned holiday that we need to take time off for. That these are the only things that we can celebrate and focus on. And we get into this hypnotic trance. And then we begin to lose our individuality. We stop thinking creatively and fall into the cultural trance. Not mind warriors. Not warrior monks. Not citizen samurais. Not Aquarian warriors. We break through the cultural trance. And we run around banging on pots and pans, ringing bells, blowing whistles, doing whatever it takes to break others out of the cultural trance as well. And we can do that through all of these different interesting ways. Let's see. So the structure that the culture forces upon us are as follows. How to dress. How to make it successfully. How to own things. What is trending. What is not trending. What the protocols are. How to relate to each other. Politics. Manners. Your length of hair. When to smile. When to not smile. What your body odor is. What your credentials are. How to keep score. How to think. How to act at work. How to act with your kids. How to act with your families. How to be appropriate in every situation. Now, of course, we can't just run around and act like maniacs all the time and be so completely out of the cultural norms. that people find us abrasive. That's not what we're talking about here. But we're talking about stripping away some of those cultural structures that force us to act a certain way. Oh, you're not supposed to talk about this. You're not supposed to dress that way. You're not supposed to act this way when you're out in public, when you're doing this, when you're doing that. You're supposed to be very robotic, and it feels alien to us. It's not natural. These are the things that we talk about now. These are the things that we think about now. So that in 10 years from now, like we've talked about, or for us, less than 10, because again, our focus right now, this is being recorded December 2023. We're thinking about that 2030 time frame. What is life going to be like at the beginning of the next decade? We need to strip away some of these cultural structures that are burdensome, that are barriers in between growth and healing and love. These divisive barriers that destroy us every day. We're going to start tearing those things down. We don't want them. The old paradigm, it's out. We've already told you. We hate it. We don't want it. It's no longer serving us. And we are going to start going from revolutionaries where we react to situations that we're in, that were forced upon us, and we are going to start being evolutionaries. We're going to start controlling our own evolution, first as individuals and then as groups. Once we do that, then it spreads out into the culture. And now we have a more inclusive culture, less divisive. We have a culture of healing and growth, and positive, happiness, right? Abundance. We can do all these things. Next is work areas. Next page. Work areas. Objective measures of performance. Area. We have on the left-hand side, it says area. Under that, we have body work, bio work, head work, heart work, spirit work, psi work, eco work, peace work, and framework. And we're going to develop ourselves one step at a time. So for the area of body work, we have 6 levels. Level 1, can take a fall. Number 2, can take a blow. Number 3, can do a 10 kilometer under an hour. Number 4, has a belt in a martial art. Number 5, has a black belt in a martial art. And level 6 has 2 black belts. All the author is talking about here is your physical body work. How are you healing your physical body and becoming more healthy? Next is the bio work. Can you fast on juice for a week? Number 2, can you eat nuts and grains for just 1 month? Number 3, massages and colon cleanses. Now we're looking into more deeper ways of healing the body outside of the mainstream. Level 4, can process pranayama. I don't know what that is. Level 5, 90% plus a vegetarian. And level 6, can live off of nature for 20 days. Again, different levels of dealing with our biology. Trying new things. Instead of being locked into this one mindset of I can only eat the processed poison that is marketed to me through corporations, instead of only saying that my Western medicine prescribed by the pharma, not even going to go into it, not even going to say all those words. I like what I'm doing here. I don't want to get, shortchanged. Can we step outside of those things that are marketed to us, that way of culture, that cultural structure when it comes to our own bodies? Again, not in ways that are going to damage us. We have to be smart about it. We have to be intelligent. We have to get rid of the disinformation and misinformation that comes from all of the sides. Misinformation and disinformation doesn't just come from talking heads when we're talking about politics and things like that. It can also come from fake healers selling you snake oil. So we're going to be very careful. Quick story, a friend of mine. Every time I saw them, had a new solution in the bio work. Some new snake oil that was going to solve their issue. Oh, I'm going to go to this thing this weekend and I'm going to get this treatment and I am going to be so much better. Everything's going to be better, Victor. Oh, it's just going to be perfect. And I would say to them every fucking time, it's not going to work. It takes time. You have to find a system and work it. Most of the systems that are offered out there are, expensive. Somebody is, again, trying to sell you that snake oil. None of it works. That's the beauty of what you found here in the Mind War. I'm not trying to sell you anything but t-shirts. I'm not trying to sell you anything but hoodies and sweatshirts. That's the only way that you can financially support me at this point. I'm not trying to sell you some system. I'm not trying to say, oh, you got to get a monthly subscription to my physical healing, mental healing, body healing, spirit healing program. And the more you pay, the deeper the secrets and knowledge that you're going to get. No, folks, I'm giving it all to you right here for free, as much as I possibly can. And again, the only way, if you want to support this project financially, I want to give you something physical for your financial support. You're going to walk away with a hoodie, a sweatshirt, a long sleeve shirt, a t-shirt, a sticker, and a hat. All right? And with that, I'm going to keep sharing with you the things that I've found that I've been able to use to heal my mind, body, and spirit. Things like the Gateway Experience tapes. I've told so many of you now throughout all my different social media, there are copies of the Gateway Experience tapes free on YouTube right now. I think there's free copies out on Reddit too. Just be careful what you're downloading, right? But from YouTube, what I suggest, you can go to my link tree. I have a link to a great YouTuber who's put out all the Gateway Experience tapes for free. Or find any other copy that you can. Make a copy of your own. Save it to your hard drive. Save it to your phone. Mine's right in my phone, right? I have all 47 of the Gateway Experience tapes on my phone. They're backed up on my computer. They're backed up on my hard drive, right? I'm not trying to sell you snake oil here, folks. Giving away the farm for free so we can all eat healthy. Headwork. Number 1, recognizes own cultural programs. So basically you're understanding what control the culture you were born into has over you. Number 2, stops using mindless cliches. Whew! That is wild to think about. We live in a world of cliches. Well, this is how we've always done it. Blah, 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 blah. Nope. We don't want to hear it anymore. The only reason that some people live the life that they do is because they're following these mindless cliches. We're out of that game. Number 3, identifies feelings separately. You mean you can have multiple feelings at one time? You can look and see some type of world event occurring and separate the emotions that are being, thrown at you, because every time you hear a story online from some news source or from some media source, they are putting as much feeling into it as possible. They're frosting that cake with feeling. And when you eat it, you just get sick. And the feelings overtake you because they're so good at manipulating your feelings. But the question is, can you identify those feelings separately and understand you're being played? Some of the things that I've seen in the news this year and the way that people reacted to them, the answer right now to that question is no. You all are being manipulated by your feelings by magicians. These people are magicians at making media. They are sorcerers of discontent. They are sorcerers of emotional potions. And they shove them down your throat and you just take them. And they play with you. They play with your mind. They play with your heart. And you don't care. Or maybe it's not that you don't care. Maybe it's just because you haven't listened to enough episodes of the Mind War podcast. Right? Number 4, eliminates habits of all kinds. Habits come in so many forms. It's not just junk food, alcohol, drugs. Everything that we do is habitual. Take that clear look at your life. What are your habits? Can visually model what's happening. Do you have the mindset to where you can look at things that are occurring in your life and visualize how they happened? How did I get to this point? And how do I get myself out of it? And last one here for the head work. Can pre-visualize a more useful alternative? Just like I said, can you visualize yourself solving this problem, creating the better scenario to move out of the bad situation you're currently in and visualize that new situation? If you don't have imagination, you can't visualize the future. You can't visualize a better world for you to live in if you don't use your imagination. Heart work. Number 1, knows heart can control action. That's right. Our heart, how we feel, it controls how we act. We understand our heart language. Number 2, we understand the different feelings. We understand what they're trying to tell us. Level 3 opens the heart chakra. All right, for those of you who are deep into the chakras and understand them, those of you who are deep into meditation and understand them, please reach out. Those are some of the issues, those are some of the teachings that I have a little bit more trouble with. In the Gateway Experience tape, Dr. Monroe does talk about filling your chakras with light energy. I have felt it, but now I personally need to go past feeling and understand more what it means to have these chakras filled. What is the purpose of it? I also know how to reverse it. And for those of you who want that information, reach out to me. Level 4, can mirror heart and breath of another. Can you put yourself in someone else's shoes? Can you feel what they're feeling? Can you have empathy? Number 5, the level 5 of heart work is can fall in love with everyone. Man, for a guy like myself who pretty much hates everybody, that's going to be a hard one. I have a really hard time interacting with other people. Always have, hopefully not always will. And again, I don't really hate everyone. This is conjecture. This is entertainment, right? But I do have difficulty dealing with other people. And that's something that hopefully that I can overcome. And even if it's not something that I overcome in my life, maybe it will be more important to me to connect with people who are open to falling in love with everyone and doing those acts of service and kindness and caring. And if I can help facilitate them to be able to be free in their own lives to do those things, I mean, if that's my job, thank goodness. I'll take it. Number 6, can perform a heart ceremony. I think that's different than an open heart surgery. Not sure what a heart ceremony is, but but hopefully we'll learn more about that in the future. Next is spirit work. Number 1, can feel the spirit, understanding that you have a spirit. Number 2, connects the spirit and the man, understanding that it's mind, body, and spirit. Our mind is what we use to calculate our spirit. Our mind is what we use to calculate our body. And it's with our mind that we understand we understand our mind or that our spirit and body are one and the same. They've come together while at the same time being like oil and water, being completely separate. The mind, body, and spirit are like salad dressing, folks. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. Number 3, spirit work realizes the different paths of spirit. Not everyone is on the same path. We are not drones. We're not trying to force everyone in. Number 4, can channel the spirit. You can control your spirit and understand that it has certain powers and abilities that are outside of our normal understanding. This is what we talked about when we're going to reach outside of our cultural norms and take a look at things like channeling our spirit. Level 5 operates based on spirit communications, thinking of new types of language outside of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Those are more of the tools that we currently use to help understand and communicate these thoughts and ideas. But spirit communication is that next level. Can we get there? And level 6 can explain God as an engineer. Can we, through our logical, scientific, mechanical minds, can we explain what God or the universe, the universal spirit, the oneness, can we explain what that is? Do we even understand what that is? Next is psi work. Level 1 learns to release. Can you start to release some of that stress? Can you start to release some of that fear? Can you start to release some of those things that, that materialism? Can you let go of those desires to simply be promoted to the next position? Level 2, hears and sees others' thoughts. We're not talking about supernatural abilities like some type of Marvel superhero. We're talking about realistic, scientific abilities to see and hear other people's thoughts by watching them, watching their body movements, how they're communicating with us through their voice, right? We're looking for these subtle things. That's how we're going to understand what people are thinking. You can read other people's minds. It's not a supernatural, mystical, esoteric, occultic thing. It can be broken down scientifically. It's how some of the most successful people in our world manipulate and corrupt those around them. We're learning the tools of the most corrupt, of the most manipulative, of the most gaslighting people in the world who use it to dominate us. We're using and learning the same tools that they use to heal the mind, body, and spirit. We're going to tear down their old paradigm of corruption and enslavement, and we're going to turn the tools against them, because we're going to heal whether you like it or not. Psi work level 3 can do out-of-body travel. This is what we're talking about with the Gateway Experience tapes, folks. We're going to get into it more. You're going to listen to the tapes. You're going to write down your experiences. You're going to start making listening to the Gateway Experience tapes part of your new habits because you're going to give up the old habits. I'm only talking about a half hour a day. Hell, a half hour a week. And by the end of the year, you've listened to every tape. Now, the way that the tapes work, and really any type of meditation, is doing it on a daily basis. It's much better. You got to have practice. But you will eventually have an out-of-body experience. I promise you. If you put the time and effort into it. Level 4, can do some psychokinesis. Not exactly sure what that word means, but we think of things like ESP and stuff like that. And again, some of that is like pattern recognition. Oh, dude, you're like a fucking prophet, bro. Like, you can see what's coming in the future. How do you know all this stuff? Dude, literally, it's the same pattern over and over and over and over again. They tell you what's going to happen, and if you listen to them, you'll know what the future is going to hold. Whoever they are in your life. Whoever it is in your life that has control over you, and we all have controllers, we all have people that dominate us. Whoever they are, if you actually take the time to just listen to them, they will tell you what they're going to do. It's a lot like boxers, right? I'm not a boxer. I have honestly no idea what I'm talking about with this, but I think one of the things that makes a great boxer is that they're able to see those very minute muscle movements that forecast what their opponent is going to do. They see that little twitch in the arm, and they know that that left arm's coming. They see that little twitch in the shoulder. They know that that right hook is coming, right? People look at that outside of the ring and say, holy crap, this guy is some type of supernatural warrior using psychokinesis to see into the future. No, he's just paying attention. He's listening to what they tell you. Level 5, can pass through objects. I don't necessarily understand what that's talking about, psi work. If he's really talking about astral travel, I've done astral travel. I've experienced it. In my opinion, what astral travel is, and we'll get deeper into it in future episodes and seasons of Mind War. But for me, what I've experienced is simply using your imagination to visualize the place that you want to astrally travel to. In your mind, you are thinking, imagining what this place is, and then you place yourself into it. In order to do that, you have to pass through some solid objects. Level 6, slips the silver lining. Not really sure what that means, but hopefully we'll figure it out together. Next is eco work. Stays out alone at night. Okay? I guess just being not afraid to be out in nature alone. Level 2, can trace an ecosystem. That would be understanding how the ecosystem around you works. What are the plants and animals and the weather and all of those natural resources around you, and how do they work together? Number 3, maintains and eats veggies. Okay, vegetables are important. Got to eat them. Level 4, can sense plant auras. I've planted a few different types of gardens. Some vegetables, some green leafy plants, and some fungus style plants. And they all have their own aura. They all have their own personalities. They respond to certain things, which leads them to healthy growth, and others they shrivel up from, right? They all have auras. Can you sense them? Organizes a tree plant with friends and family. Level 5, that means just reaching out to the ecosystem. And level 6 establishes an eco project that someone else runs. So if you get successful enough in this eco work, you can actually create some type of organization that ends up running autonomously from you because you've been so successful in setting the path, the mission statement, providing them the resources that they need. If that's what you want to work on, good on you. That's what we're talking about. Next is piecework. Level 1 has worked in the mainstream. The majority of us have all been mainstream employees at some type of corporation or whatever, right? But have you been able to get out there and peacefully coexist with others? Level 2 understands the value of friction. Okay? Friction helps us grow. Anything that provides resistance makes us stronger. Level 3 understands distrust and hate. I'm a big fan of hate myself. I believe that hate is just as important as love. You need both of them. You need to understand them. You need to understand why people hate certain things and distrust certain things. Again, this whole idea of understanding the people around you. You will be more successful when you do. Level 4 develops peace inside. Are you at peace with yourself? That's a tough question to answer. And for a lot of people, that answer is no. You have this person inside of you, that true, honest, real you, who is often put in a cage, shoved down, beaten, abused, because the outside world, that culture, that society that we are in, forces you to do so. You have this person inside of you that wants to get out and be creative and be happy and loving and caring, but those around you do not. They want to just destroy it at every possible chance that they get. The question is that can you develop that inner peace to where you no longer suffer the effects of those destructive outside forces? Because once you do, you can get to level 5 where you can develop peace in a team when you start to find others who are at peace with themselves. And level 6, become a walking, talking peacemaker. At this point in our current situation, it may not be time for the peacemakers to go out there and start walking and talking. We still may have to work through some of these lower levels, and some of that might mean dealing with friction, having these battles. Maybe we're not ready for peace yet as a whole. Maybe we never will be. Maybe it's always going to be different levels. People are at different stages. I can understand that. But our goal is to be that peacemaker. Next is framework. Number 1, sees workplace from above, right? Instead of just being the brick in the wall, can you also step back and see the wall itself? Level 2, understands meta, view, and metaphor. Okay? Meta view, can you look at individual tiny pieces of information and understand what they mean as a whole? And can you use metaphors to explain that? Metaphor is basically a way of explaining complicated things in a story-like format. Number 3, models and operating system. Models and operating system. So is your framework this new paradigm that we're creating for ourselves, this new framework for our new way of living, can you model it into an operating system to where you can say, here's what I do, here's how I live and how I work and how I act. This is my operating system. It runs without any bugs. I'm going to upgrade it every once in a while, but I can also download it and give that code to other people and say, here's how I'm living, here's what I'm doing, here's my operating system. It may not be perfect for you. You might have to rewrite some of the code. You might have to change some of the options, right? But that's available to us, making those small tweaks. Level 4 applies evolutionary management. We are going to focus on evolutionary thinking, not revolutionary reacting. We are building that future through our evolutionary thought process. And can we manage that evolution? That's the goal. Can we stop evolving based on how we react to things in our lives? And can we start to manage our own evolution? Level 5 applies techniques to the larger system. Can we then look outside of ourselves in those small groups and into the larger groups and start to apply these techniques to the culture to create new organizations, corporations, and institutions that serve the people and the planet? And level 6, actually change a violent pattern in the world. Can we, through this work, can we help prevent the violence? Violence doesn't just mean physical. It comes in a wide range of flavors. All of them are filthy. All of them are gross. None of us want to deal with them. So can we together, starting at the individual and then moving our way up the hierarchy of life, can we help do away and actually change those violent patterns in our world? And right now, sadly, it looks like we're going in the wrong direction. It looks like we're moving towards a more divided and violent world. And that's why I come down here to the Mind Wars studios and record these videos. This book was written over 50 years ago, and the men and women and others who were in charge over the last 50 years, those baby boomers, one of the worst generations on the planet. Sorry if you remember that, but I just don't know what else to say. The baby boomers are awful. They are manipulative and only think of themselves. They honestly just are some of the most selfish people I've ever met. They've tried to pass that selfishness on to the generations below them, and thankfully we've been immune to a lot of that. And I think some of these newer generations, Gen Z, the millennials, I think there's something called Gen Alpha now, us Gen Xers, we're going to help be that defense between all the wrong think of the baby boomer generation and all the newer generations that are coming. We're doing our very best to defend you from their old way of thinking, that old paradigm. Sadly, it has seeped through the culture and into society, and you see a lot of people, still holding on to it. But that's why we do this work now. Just like Lieutenant Colonel Jim Shannon, the author of our book, First Earth Battalion, did, 40, 50 years ago. We're continuing that work. And maybe it's a cyclical thing where every few generations we have to just keep doing this, right? And eventually, maybe it'll get to the point where through incremental growth, incremental generational healing, we're going to get rid of those generational curses that we hear so much about. And if we can do all this, it is here. You can be called a master warrior monk. When you look at all these work areas, when you work your way from level 1 to level 6 in all of them, when you develop yourself one step at a time. Ooh, that's where we're going to leave it for today, folks. We're going to move on in the next episode. We're going to talk about realization. We're going to start to actually see some of the fruits of our labor, I think. All right. But again, that's for our next episode. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode of Mind War. This was Season 2, Episode 6. I appreciate you being here. And as always, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War. Thank you for joining me. Your friend Victor, the Occult Technician.